YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back, and I got my position rankings, quarterback position rankings for the NFL draft. This is the first one of these videos we're doing. We're going through every single position. We got plenty of mock drafts, NFL draft content on the channel, and plenty more to come. We're also going to be live during the NFL draft. April 25th is day one. We're starting a little early, and we're going to be live during the draft here on YouTube, talking predictions when each team is on the clock, and we'll have our reactions. Should be a lot of fun. It's my favorite day of the year. Hopefully you can join us. Subscriber goal is at 20K. Please help us get there by clicking that button. Like button, notification button, much appreciated. We're going to go live randomly before the draft too. Talk about some things, maybe some Q&As. So notification button is key there. And there's our Twitter, which is also in the description as well. So please give us a follow for updates. And we'll be live on Twitter for day 3. But let's get on to the quarterback rankings. Again, this is not how I think they're going to come off the board. This is my opinion. I'm going to give you my thoughts here. We're going to do this for every position. So quarterback number 1. We're going to go from first to worst pretty much here. No saving the best for last. None of that here. I got Kyler Murray at 1. You see he's 5'10", 207. I don't pay attention too much to the height and weight. Maybe that's just me. I know people requested some height and weights for some of my top guys in the past. But Kyler Murray, quarterback from Oklahoma. And then my grade is first round, of course. And I think he'll go first pick. Would I take him with the first pick? That's a different question. I did my what I would do mock. So if you haven't seen that, please check it out. But Kyler Murray, quarterback 1. I had somebody else maybe during the first half of this process at QB1 for a while. But what I just kept saying to myself is, and this was the difference maker, I don't really want to play against Kyler Murray. I don't really want to have to game plan against him. That's just me, but I think other defenses will think that too. Most of the defensive coaches are old school guys. This guy's going to be a problem. He's going to be a headache, and I keep thinking about that. The other 2 quarterbacks that are at the top, the obvious next 2, you're not really afraid to play against them. Just think about your team, your defense. Are you going to be afraid to play against them? Not really. Maybe in the future, depending on how they develop. But Murray in the back, most people were like, I'm not afraid. My team can handle it. Understandable. But in the back of your mind a little bit, he's going to be a problem. This guy's going to be somewhat of a problem. So that was the difference maker. He has a great arm. Everybody talks about the deep ball. Yeah, the deep balls make you jump out of your seat. The way he runs up, scrambles, all that, makes you jump out of your seat. But the outside, the sideline throws from in the pocket, people aren't talking about that. He can do that, and that's what the scouts look for. He doesn't fit every single offense, every team, but he's got that, and that's what every single scout GM looks for, is those outside, those sideline throws, and he's very accurate on them. He did have, here's some negatives, which this really isn't his fault. He had the best offensive line in the country, so it's not a big negative, obviously, here. He had the best offensive line in the country, so with a little bit worse offensive line, will it be different? But one thing that, I'm really worried about, a lot of his deep balls that were just, the good ones, the wow moments. First of all, if he's scrambled all over the place, will he be able to do that in the NFL? Probably not. He can do a little bit of it. But the main part is where you would step up way in the pocket, right at the line of scrimmage, where you would think there would be D linemen at in the NFL. So that I worry about a little bit. I don't think he will be able to do that in the NFL, but he doesn't really need to, and that's why he's 1. The main reason he's 1 I kind of went over. It's just the game plan, factor. And you talk to all these players that played against all these players, and most of them are saying that Kyler Murray, not only the best quarterback, the best player in the draft. And they've played against, some of these guys played against multiple quarterbacks here, top quarterbacks. So it just brings us back to, it's a guy you just don't really want to play against. Number 2 is Drew Lock for me, a guy that I had at 1. Sometimes with these things, I've been, the drafts, how this channel started, and even before we did the channel, I've been, covering the draft for a while. Even when I was little, I used to make rankings. I used to get out a piece of paper and a pen, used to make rankings. And sometimes I just see things in guys that they just got that it to me. And that's Drew Lock. And that's why he was at 1 for a while. But, different than Kyler Murray, I'm not really too afraid to play against Lock right away. So that's really the difference. But he has a bunch of potential. He's got that it factor. I think he can fit in a pro style. He needs the negative is his intermediate to short throws. A little off target sometimes, but he can fix that. He definitely can fix that. You look at Robert Griffith III, who I was high on. Deep ball, just beautiful. athletic, a little more athletic than Drew Lock, and just could not figure out the short throws, the medium throws, but also had the injuries too, which we expect Lock to be a little more healthy. So that's a little bit, I'm not really comparing them in terms of play styles, but I think you get my point there. But Drew Lock, deep ball, excellent, can throw on the run. He had a throw. He didn't have the best game against Alabama, but he had a throw kind of a little bit across his body, scanning the field, left corner, perfectly placed. That was probably one of my favorite throws out of this class. He's a big kid too, 6'4", 228. That's the right size right there. So I like Drew Lock, a lot of potential. So he's at my number 2. My number 3 is going to be Dwayne Haskins. I like Dwayne Haskins, but, obviously not as much as Murray and Lock. And the thing, why is Haskins behind them? It's tough because I love what I saw from Haskins at the end of the year. That Northwestern game, maybe out of all these quarterbacks, probably in terms of the whole tape put together, not like wow moments, or he did have wow moments, but the whole tape put together, maybe the single best tape out of the quarterback class. Dwayne Haskins versus Northwestern. Throwing on the run was just perfect. It made me get out of my seat, the way he was able to do that. He did have time to throw, very good offensive line. Things I worry about him with a not so good offensive line or average offensive line. He takes his time in the pocket sometimes, not as quick to throw like the other two guys. And when he climbs the pocket, it looks good, but it just takes a little bit too much time. You put a timer on it, a little bit too much time. Things he can work on. When that ball's in the air, when he throws it deep, it's in terms of not placement, even though he can place the ball pretty darn good. In terms of how the ball looks, like the spiral on that thing, that spin on that thing, I don't know if I've seen it better. So Haskins can play. I just worry about him climbing the pocket too much time, and then, with the pressure. I worry about a little bit and the lack of mobility. So I worry about those things a little bit, but I like Haskins. He's accurate on the run. Earlier in the year, or maybe the first half of the year, he struggled throwing on the sideline, overthrew, underthrew. That Purdue game was rough. That was later towards the year. After that, some switch flipped or something. So, and then he figured it out. But which guy are we going to get? Lack of experience, I guess, concerns me. So, not that much of a difference between Haskins and the other two, but, a little more negatives that concern me a little bit more. And that's really what you have to split up. So, now we're kind of on to the interesting ones here. What's it going to be next? And I got Jarrett Stidham at number 4. This is my guy at number 4. And I do have all the other 3 guys I had round 1 grades on at the bottom there underneath the number. This one is a borderline 2-3. I went with 3 because he's not ready yet. So no second round grade on a quarterback, unfortunately. 6'2", 218 for Jarrett Stidham. I've mentioned that I think it actually could be a little easier down the road for him in the NFL than it was at Auburn. Complicated offense, asked him to do maybe a little too much right away. I think, simplify the offense for him, which pretty much all the new quarterbacks get that treatment. He can be special. He's got a hell of an arm. He can throw that out route. Mainly the storyline of these quarterbacks, I worry about all of them under pressure, except for Kyler Murray, but it's going to be a little different in the NFL, climbing the pocket, but for him. But all these guys I worry about under pressure. Stidham did struggle under pressure at times, kind of just panicked, didn't know what to do under pressure. So something he definitely needs to work on. He did overthrow targets plenty of times. I rather the overthrow than the underthrow. Obviously, some other guys underthrew. So the arm strength is what separates him from the other guys that are after him, who I have plenty of third-round grades on, and the upside. I'm not a fan of sitting a quarterback and letting him learn, but in this scenario, I am. I think he can be a heck of a quarterback down the road. He has that arm strength. He can throw that out route. So I'm a Stidham guy, I guess you could say, in the 4th round. I'm not super high on him as the 4th quarterback, but I'm not super high on him because, obviously I have him as 3rd-round grade. And then number 5, tough between 5 and 6. Number 5, I have Ryan Finley, a 3rd-round grade, maybe a little later than Stidham, obviously, 6'4", 213. Very good touch pass down the sideline, very accurate. And actually a little more athletic than you would think for a big guy. Not super athletic, but a little more athletic. I mentioned this before, trying to watch their receivers, guys like Calvin Harmon. Ryan Finley just stood out. Perfectly placed balls down the sideline. So Finley, I think a safe quarterback. Not going to go cost you the game or anything. Maybe he could with the next level talent, but I imagine he sits a little bit. So I like Finley. I think a safer quarterback with some upside. Not too far off from Stidham. And then I'm going to reveal my next 6 through 10 here. And the number 6, who I think is a fan favorite, isn't too far off. But that's Will Grier. I have at 6. I think he has a lot of upside, maybe more upside than a guy like Ryan Finley. But, you know, Will Grier he's a tough one. Because sometimes he doesn't have the proper footwork, mechanics. You know, it's not really something I value all that much. If you get the job done, you get the job done. But then sometimes he'll kind of throw a wild ball. And I wish he was a little better throwing to the sideline. And the deep ball is great, but sometimes he'll get a little carried away and kind of just throw it up for grabs, and it really won't be anywhere in the area. So really, the negative for me for Will Grier is he's pretty wild. You know, he gets a little carried away, gets a little wild, needs to calm down. He needs to work on some things. He has the talent. You know, I see a little Baker Mayfield in him. Obviously, I have him at number 6 quarterback in a weaker quarterback class, so I don't think he's Baker Mayfield, but I see a little bit of that in him. Has a very high ceiling, like I mentioned. So, and then number 7, I have Daniel Jones, who I think Daniel Jones can play better than a guy like Will Grier right away, but I don't really see much of a ceiling on him. Will Grier, I see way more of a ceiling, so since they were pretty even, that was the difference maker. Daniel Jones, very good with the RPO. He was pretty good at deep ball at times down the sideline. You're looking at a Temple game. The thing that I hate about him is when he's under pressure, he kind of just panics and just launches the ball off his left foot. He doesn't care. He doesn't care who. He was very fortunate with, you know, not having as many interceptions. He doesn't care who's guarded, how many corners or safeties, linebackers are on the guy he's throwing. He's just throwing the ball. He needs to get rid of the ball before getting sacked. And you know that some people might view that as a good thing, but sometimes it's a bad thing. And I don't like that from Daniel Jones. He did play in a pouring rain game, which it was a terrible, terrible game from him. But it was very bad weather. But you know, it was very bad. So there's definitely some things he needs to work on. I don't see much of a ceiling, but I mean, he can come in and play. Maybe there's not a whole bunch of good quarterbacks in the league starting right now, so I don't doubt him too much, but it's tough. And I think people overreact on him because he had the same coach as Peyton Manning did, so, and then I guess somewhat similar body type, so I think people overreact in that way. And remember, it is a different league now too, so, but he can run RPO, and he can actually move. He's pretty athletic for his size. Number 8, I have Tyree Jackson from Buffalo, an upside guy, not ready to play right away. Decision-making questionable. Sometimes he'll be looking one way, and then he'll decide that guy's not open, so he's going to turn and throw it out, you know, reading the defense on the other side. But he has, man, that arm strength is unreal, and he obviously has the size. He's pretty good athleticism for his size too. So teams will want to work with this guy. It's a guy, you know, down in rounds. You know, he could actually go round 3, but I would take him more around 4, 5, and I would definitely take the chance down in that area. Brett Rippon is number 9. You know, he has his moments where it's like, wow, under pressure, throws a laser, perfect, and it just makes you, get out of your seat and wow. I worry about him, you know, even though he was good throwing at pressure, I worry about him, you know, under pressure and mainly climbing the pocket. I imagine he'll step into some sacks if he plays early on in his career, not just some. I think he'll step into quite a bit. That just the way he moves in the pocket. So that really the wow moments are probably better than the 2 guys ahead of him at 7 and 8. But it's just, you know, some things like that. You know, I worry about his pocket presence, really what it is. But sometimes it looks so good, like I mentioned, just throwing under pressure. But stepping up in the pocket is really what brings him down here. And I think there's a pretty good gap after him. Gardner Minshew I have at 10. Has wow moments too, but does throw, you know, a lot in the flats, you know, not really hard throws. He can move too. Didn't really have too many hard throws. He'll have some wow moments downfield, but again, it was made pretty easy for him at Washington State, which these new offense coordinators are making it pretty easy on their quarterbacks, which is very smart. So if you run that style offense, I like Mike Leach a lot, Washington State coach. He simplifies it, has a unique offense at the same time. I think he's smart. But Minshew, I think would be maybe worth drafting later in the day. So for the rest of these that I have ranked, I'll do this for every video too. I'm going to show you through the Draft Network. So I'll give you guys this link in the description for every video too, so you guys can go through. So got the rest of the guys that I ranked here, 11 through 16. I don't rank everybody. You know, I'm not going to draft every single one of these guys, but I would at least think about these guys. And Clayton Thorson's the guy that I'd probably take a chance on late too. He's a guy with upside because you know, he didn't really have the right talent around him. He was making some NFL throws that those receivers really couldn't get to. Pretty good throwing on the sideline. See him throwing with both hands, too. Very impressive. Easton Stick, another guy that can go late from North Dakota State. Pretty athletic, can throw the ball pretty well deep, some accuracy, just inconsistent tape. Taron Christian's a guy that's a sleeper. He had a 740. So looking at today's NFL, the more athletic guys are stepping up, and he can throw the ball pretty well. So this is a guy I would take a shot on drafting because the athleticism, you know, work with him in practice, have him learn behind some guys. I'd take a chance here late. These next guys most likely would be undrafted for me. Jordan Ta'amu from Mississippi. Off target on a lot of throws, but has tremendous arm strength, can move in the pocket, but it's just that accuracy. You know, he had the right talent around him, had some wild throws at times, but that actually's got to be fixed. But again, the arm talent, pocket presence, pretty solid. Kyle Shermer had a pretty quietly very solid year for Vanderbilt. You know, pretty safe quarterback, pretty accurate, just not really going to wow. And then Trace McSorley, again, probably undrafted, could switch positions, but another guy inconsistent at times. He flashed on film, but again, probably not a guy that I would draft, but he had his moments. You know, it's a guy that you got to respect a lot too, likable guy, good leader. So maybe a guy that switches positions. But there's some other guys that maybe could be solid undrafted guys, but these are the guys I rank, the guys I would think about or absolutely at the top would draft. So I'll do that for all the videos, have the graphics, and then I'll show the bottom guys on here. So you guys can get the link here. I'll put the link in the description though, and it'll come out every time I have the video. And I guess we're very close to the draft, but some things definitely can change. Never know. But yeah, that's going to do it for the first position ranking videos, which was the quarterbacks. We got plenty more to get to, plenty more content too, NFL draft content, and then some live streams. And then we'll be live during the NFL draft, so can't wait for that. Thanks everyone for the support. It's been fantastic. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.